So now that we're done with 2.1 content, we get to take a look and relax a little bit with 2.2 content. These have been a long time coming, and I'm honestly sorry that it took so long to get these out, considering how basic they are for what you need to do in the game right now. But next up, we're going to be looking at the 3 new dungeons added to the game, the expert tier dungeons. You're going to see me boot up the Duty Finder roulette here, but where we end is going to be Brayflox's Longstop, hard mode. Running this dungeon will net you a fair number of soldiery tomes, which you can use to buy item level 100 equipment, as well as mythology tomes, which you need for item level 90 equipment and upgrading your Atma weapon. Overall, it's good for everybody. The items that drop from the chests are all item level 70 as well. It's the Darklight gear you could get previously. We're going in with a pre-made group of a couple friends of mine, but none of us is so expert at anything that this is going to be a different experience than what you would get in the Duty Finder queuing solo. Now, Brayflox's Longstop specifically is a dungeon that is more often than not speedrun, specifically for the tome reward. Even if you go into the Duty Finder, you'll see it speedrun. So we're going to be showing you what's going to amount to be a pretty average run. This is generally what you should expect. Now, our group has a Dragoon and a Monk, neither of which has the greatest AoE damage, so speedrunning this is going to be a little bit difficult. In general, I would only suggest doing what we're about to do if you have either a Bard or a Black Mage, or even a Summoner, really, in your group as well. We can get by, though, because we actually sort of know what we're doing, and we've done this 8 billion times. So, off we go. Ogre's decided to tank this one for us. So, you'll see a number of enemies right up front. And you actually have to kill all of the goblins before the first major barrier, before you get the key to open the door. So what Ogre is going to do is grab these couple enemies and just keep running, so I'm just gonna run alongside him. Now, if you feel like you don't have the greatest AoE damage in the world, you can really stop after just that last group and not pull these next couple as we are. Because that's a lot of enemies for the tank to have on him, and he's got a lot that he's going to have to be dodging around and trying not to get killed by. I've seen overzealous tanks come in here and die almost immediately. Just because he pulled too many mobs, and we didn't have the damage to keep up with it. Or maybe the healer wasn't equipped to keeping him alive, or maybe the tank himself wasn't equipped to endure that kind of beating. But, if you feel like you don't have the DPS for it, you can grab just the first 2, and then, because we grabbed 3 groups here, you can grab just the first 2 groups, and then grab the next 2 groups following that. You can see I'm going through what little of an AoE rotation I have. I've said Monk generally has very bad AoE, and it's not really worth it, and that's true for the most part. However, there's simply so many enemies that you pull here, it would be inefficient not to use AoEs. Because if you think about it, something like Arm of the Destroyer, which does, if memory serves, 120 damage or so, 120 base damage or so, compared to the 2, even 300 that I can get from a couple other attacks, and add to that how much TP Arm of the Destroyer costs. I think I did the math, and it's really only worth it to use Arm of the Destroyer if you're going to be hitting 5 or more enemies with... I don't remember the exact math, and my number could be wrong. But the number of enemies we're pulling here is like 7, 8, 9 enemies. It's easily worth it. In that regard, you can think of that one attack as doing over 900 base damage for that one attack. Now we've run up and grabbed the next group of guys. Once again, you do want to be careful about AoEs, because not only do the enemies use AoEs, but there is a rather large gob tank who's shooting down here at us, as you see there, that we need to get out of the way for. There's also the raptors, the Eoraptors, Eoraptors, that will use a conal AoE, and you're really going to be doing a lot of dodging in and out. Now here we simply ran up and grabbed the next group, which was a small group. I'm not AoEing them because there's only about 3 enemies there. And there's a coral that you saw that's wandering up and down the bridge. He'll wander down and give you a bad day, so you might as well just go up and grab him at the same time. Really, none of these enemies do anything too extravagant, which is why we can get away with pulling so many of them. But once you've killed the last goblin, the final one drops a key. It's not a specific goblin, it's the final one. You have to kill all of them. But once he drops the final key, now, if you feel like it, you can kill the next couple enemies, but there is a much easier way to get by. You see, the boss door is just on the other side of this. Oh, and as we're learning here, if you scoot just this far in, they stop casting, or the gob tank stops shooting at you. So if you pull all the enemies in here, you won't be dodging in and out of that AoE. But a much easier way for us to handle this is for the tank to grab the 2 enemies, and then someone else run over and try to open the door. Since you got the key, you should be able to open it, and there's the boss right there. Pull him, hit him, do whatever, tick him off. You'll have 15 seconds, and you can actually lock the other enemies out of the arena. The tank will need to stand right there at the very entrance, and no one else hit the enemies, or they may decide to run into the arena. They have to have haste on the tank and be staying there outside of the arena. Now, once everything's locked off, a goblin will spawn. Now, a couple ads will spawn throughout this fight, and for the most part, ignore them. I've had people tell me to ignore all the goblins, but the first one spawns at almost the very beginning of the fight, and the other ones don't spawn until almost the very end. So, I just kill the first one, and it's one less thing to worry about. You also have to worry about the Bomberman bombs that the boss shoots off every now and then. But with that very first ad done, and the enemies locked out, we can just beat on the boss, and that's about it. There's not too much to worry about as far as the boss is concerned, other than the ads, which, again, there would be an ad beating on you this entire time if you didn't kill that first one. And he then drops, once again, the Bomberman bombs, and he just kind of tosses the other bomb down. Now, you saw the target appear on him, which means there's another sniper going after Elkheim over there, but the enemy is so close to dead that you can ignore him. Ignore him, kill the boss. See the enemies back there that we blocked out of the room. And with the first boss down, we can now move on to the second little section. Now, the second section can be speedrun just as the first. There are 3 groups of enemies, and each group of enemies is guarding a caged goblin. You have to kill the enemies up front, and the caged goblin will be freed. Once you kill all of the enemies, i.e. free all of the goblins, you're free to go to the next area. So we're going to do much the same we did last time, actually. Ogre is going to grab these couple enemies. I wasn't sure if he was going to pull them all or not, since he was kind of chilling around here. But as soon as I figured out, yeah, he's running for it, I stopped hitting them. Because you kind of want the tank to have hate on these guys. And he's going to grab everybody. Well, all the goblins. There are a couple raptors and the like, but you don't have to fight them. This is one of the biggest groups, so start wailing. Again, I'm doing the same as I did before. Arm of the Destroyer and Rockbreaker are going to be your two biggest friends here. I don't have an AoE for the second part of my combo, so I'll alternate back and forth between Twin Snakes and I forget what my first attack is called. True Strike. So I'll alternate back and forth between them just so I can, because True Strike will do more damage, but Twin Snakes will give me the buff that lets me do more damage. Which is nice when I'm doing like 900 collective damage to this group of enemies. I do need to use Invigorate because, again, this is super inefficient on TP and the like, so we can get it done fast, but I don't have the poop to keep going. Now, once I'm down to like 100 TP, I just stop AoEing. I don't have anything left. There's plenty, even if there are plenty of enemies left, I don't have the TP to keep AoEing. And if you don't have the AoE damage, this can be a problem. If we had, say, a Black Mage or so, I wouldn't run out of TP at all. But even after Invigorate, out of TP. So I'll wait until about 100 TP left after Invigorate, and then I just start doing my single target combo on him. And it'll be slower, it'll be less efficient than the AoE, but the AoE, I could honestly use one attack, and then I'd be waiting on TP for every subsequent attack. So, I find just wait on that, or once I get down to like 100, I'll lay waste anyway. Now this is something that's completely optional, but Ogre's doing it anyway, just for a little bit of extra loot. You see there are two chests over there where all the raptors and everything are that I mentioned you don't have to kill. One is at the top of that tower, which he grabbed, and then he's running down to grab the other one, which a few colibris are hiding. And once he's got them, he's just sprinting his sorry butt back over. Now, Brayflox has opened up the passage for us, having bombed the opening, so we can walk through the door, and Ogre should be joining us shortly. There he is. And we're greeted by the second boss. Now, the second boss does a few things. He himself doesn't do too much that's that dangerous. A lot of what's dangerous is done by his assistants, so to say. There are goblins lining the outside of the arena. You can't see them, you can't fight them or anything. But they toss down this blue goo into the arena. And this blue goo is explosive. It's flammable. You can see it there. On its own, it won't do anything. But both the goblin ads and the boss can toss bombs. These bombs will explode, and if one of those blue things is caught in the explosion, it explodes. So you want to not be standing in the blue stuff. You can stand in it as long as you know there's not a goblin around, you're not going to get caught out of position and killed with an explosion. I shoulder tackled into that one because I'm smart. But this is where, unlike the previous fight where I said to ignore the ads, do not ignore the ads here. Because as more spawn, there's going to be more bomb tosses, and you're going to get stuck standing in this blue crap and get exploded constantly. So, just kill the ads. If you can actually stun their bomb toss. As I do there, actually. That was the other bomb, though. Because the boss can do it as well, so he will still set off the explosions. But that's pretty much it. He also has an attack where he can dash across the arena and ram into somebody, then he'll just turn around and wander back to the tank. And he has that one, like, nail rain kind of attack that does kind of minimal damage to pretty much everybody. As long as you keep on the ads and stay out of the blue stuff, knowing that it will explode if the boss or the ads do the right attack, not a hard fight. It'll work its way out. Now, leading up to the next section, we're again going to be doing some big pulls, but not right away. You see, I was trying to get a glance up the hill back there, and up that hill there's another treasure chest. which Jack was getting. Now, other than that treasure chest, there's only about 3 enemies here, so you just take these down like a normal pole. They don't do too much of notice. They may have a conal AoE or some such, but it's not much that you haven't encountered and you shouldn't be aware of. Once you've killed both goblins, the final goblin killed will again drop a key, which lets you open the next door to the next area, where we're going to be doing a slightly larger pull. This dungeon is speedrun, though, and you can actually find, specifically for the mythology tomes, because mythology tomes only drop from the first 2 bosses. The final boss drops soldiery tomes. So people say farming mythology tomes for the books to upgrade your Atma weapon. There are actually speedrunning groups that will get together and fight only the first 2 bosses and then drop out. So here you see, Ogre has grabbed those 2. Now a rather large beaked creature will be showing up as well, and he'll be, yep, there he goes. He'll be wandering in, Goblin Beak. But this is where, grabbing all the enemies, I typically see the tank haul them off to this corner. I've seen other methods, but this seems to be the most common, is to haul all the enemies into this corner. And from here, you're just AoEing everything down like normal. Pulling them into this corner offers a couple of advantages. For one, it groups everybody up real nicely, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But on top of that, there's a rather large coral that's wandering around back in the first little area. I shouldn't say first, but the bottom of the hill we just ran up. And he'll actually walk up the bridge and slightly into the area we're in now before turning around. So you don't want to be too out in the open, or you may aggro him. So hauling them off into this corner here means you don't have to worry about him. You can see him there off in the corner. I'm going to try to get a decent shot of him. But yeah, he'll wander up and actually go through the doorway there, ever so little, and then turn around and go back down. So if you're not up here all the way and kind of hidden off to the side, he'll spot you. But after that large pull, that's pretty much it, right up until the final boss. It's been a fun run. This is a reasonably short dungeon, but I think some of that shortness has come from everyone's experience with doing more speed-runny tactics. Now, this boss has, I'll say, 3 real phases. You can actually cut the final phase short, which we will be doing, and I'll tell you how to do it. But if by chance you can't cut it short, you'll have to deal with an extra mechanic. It's not that big a deal, though. So at the very beginning, you get to unload on them. I go ahead and pop a lot of my cooldowns here, because by the time I really need them again, they should have charged up again. I don't think I'll have enough time to really get all my dots on him, though. As soon as you see that cannon fire off the top of his head, he's about to go into a kind of an in-between phase. He summons 2 adds in doing that, the sniper and the soldier. I always go for the sniper first, but that's kind of out of habit. It's not really necessary to go for one or the other. And then you can watch the guy rolling around, and he'll eventually stop and shoot out a large number of bombs. This is once again where AoEs come in handy, because hitting them will knock them back. There's no way you could kill all of them in time, or potentially even kill one in time. But if you just knock them out of the center of the arena, as we did there, you're safe to go. The boss wanders in his sorry butt back into the arena, and you can continue beating on him. Now, this time around, I do not use any cooldowns, because I want to save them for next time. This phase goes pretty much identical to the first phase. Beat on him for a little while, he shoots the thing off, then you've got a sniper and a soldier to deal with. And once the sniper and soldier are dead, or it's actually after a set amount of time, so if you're slow on killing these, you may have them around when he summons the bombs. But really, just lay waste to him and it shouldn't be that big a deal. He shoots the bombs up in the air once again. We hit him with AoEs to get him out of the center. Once again, this is where Armor of the Destroyer comes in handy, because you can actually hit 2 in each attack. And once they explode, the boss will come back in. Now, this is where you lay waste to him. If you have a cooldown, use it. Tear his sorry butt up. Now, the melee is going to be limit breaking here. Jack's actually going to do it, and he did it a little bit earlier than I choose to do it, but we pulled it off, so whatever. What I wait for is I watch for the boss right there to shoot something off. When he shoots something off, that means it's the end of the bit and he's about to drive off. You've got enough time to hit the limit break and hit him with it before he goes down. That way I know we've done as much damage as we could possibly do before crap works its way out. Now what happens if you don't kill him in time is he summons 3 or 4 ads instead of the 2 from before, and then instead of all of the little bombs, he summons 1 very large bomb that you then have to DPS down. If you don't DPS that bomb down, it'll simply explode and kill everyone, but it shouldn't be that big a deal. And while you're doing that, the boss will actually drive back and forth across the middle of the arena a couple times, and you'll need to dodge that at the same time. But then once that's done, he'll pull up and drive up and you can finish him off. But as long as you've got the DPS to whittle him down low enough that the limit break can kill him, and you wait until that last moment to do the limit break, you can entirely skip that last phase. But that was the first dungeon, so we've got 2 more dungeons to go for this time, so until then, everyone.